These gatherings are part of a long lineage. It started at Parihaka. I'm not exactly sure when, but in the late 70s, mid-70s, something like that. And the people of Parihaka started linking in with a lot of alternative healers and alternative lifestyle people, and started sharing the traditions of the Maori spiritual path, and a lot of people started reclaiming what it was to link into the seasons.
Well, there was quite a build-up to this gathering. About a year and a half before the gathering, we had a meeting that was called by a few people out at D-Lanes, and that was at the winter solstice of '89, where quite a big group of people got together who had been in previous gatherings and were interested in helping to seed this new one.
And we seeded with a sweat. We did a series of 4 sweats with a core group. And people have come in and come out and come in and put some energy in and had to go away and do their things. And
yeah, the whole process of getting this gathering together has been quite an incredible experience for me. It I learned a lot of new things.
You learned all about the financial side.
Yeah. And I knew nothing about finance.
You know, we came to a point where we just had to make a commitment that we're just going to do it and it's going to work. As it turned out, it did work. Yeah.
This land's very powerful too. This land at Owphango, this land that seems to really facilitate the integration of a lot of different energies, and there's a lot of very ancient trees here. It feels very, very old energy that's around here, and yet energy that has a very mystical quality to it. It is linked very strongly to a number of different power sites around the central North Island, and in fact right around the country. But it seems to be a place where those energies all feed into and mix in a very powerful way.
We were there for about 2-3 weeks before other people arrived. But in that meantime, in that time, we started building the toilets and the kitchen, and then we got a digger in to dig all the soakage holes, and we're going to get the digger to do some of the toilet holes as well. But we found there was too much rock, and we thought and the expense, we decided we'd get people to dig it by hand. And everything seemed to just fall into place. Whatever we wanted, it was there. And all right, the whole thing is made out is just double layer of chicken mesh and all tied together, being fairly close together, all mesh. And then you just start at the bottom and just plaster up. And the mix is just age you've got a 3-to-1 mix.
Tell me when the wheels go about that much off the ground, please. The bottom bigger. Yeah. Rocket.
There are two waters, the waters of the spirit and the waters of the material world. In this life we must choose which waters we choose to follow. I choose the waters of the spirit.
Oh.
This morning we're just starting to come into a realisation that we are going to be a community. We're going to be a community of some people that are staying for short times and some people who are staying for the whole time. But we're going to talk as if you're all staying for the whole time. And we're going to talk as if, like we're exploring things that are going to be teaching us a lot more about creating society in different ways anyway. And so that maybe some of the things that we learn and we practice here are things that will take as seeds out into our other lives and maybe start creating community in a very powerful way around us as well. There's going to be some experimenting, there's going to be some times when you're not going to even want to be here, and other times when you're not going to be able to believe the magic that happens from past experience anyway.
There's a man or men on the gate, just for safety precautions really. Oh. Well, that depends on who wants to volunteer. Yeah, it's a real good place, good, quiet place. You can spend some time with. You can sort of pick who wants to be down there with too.
We are one in the spirit, we are one in the heart, and we know that our unity will this day be restored, and we know we're God's children by our love, by our love. Yes, we know we're God's children by our love.
Welcome to those that are no longer here with us in physical form, the unseen energies, and those who have departed the physical form. Greetings to them. Greetings to the mountains, whose energy holds us here. Greetings to the river, the whakapapa. And greetings to the spirit of this place and this time, and the energy that is being gathered here and about to be settled into this land and this time. Yesterday when we were building the altar, a group of us gathered stones and we worked for a long time together on it. At the point that the keystone on the top of the altar was put into place would have been almost exactly the time that the bombers took off to deliver their load into Baghdad. We found out about that later too. There are some powerful energies moving at this time. There is a shift in the spiritual energies of the whole planet. It has been predicted for quite a long time that at this time there would be two new centres awakened on the planet. One of them is in the central North Island. We believe that we know where that is, and we believe this place is very closely linked to it. The other is in the Himalayas.
Not only is the sun entering Aquarius, but we are entering the age of Aquarius. There's no particular point at which it happens. It's a process, and it's a process that we're all in. That process is a process of duality. There are individualistic Leo energies, which are as much a part of the process as the collective group energies of Aquarius are. The age that we're moving into and what we are accustoming ourselves to is growing as individuals so that we can stand completely whole and clear in ourselves and recognize that individuality in each person that we come in contact with.
Call it in fully, grounding yourself and reaching to the heavens as the sacred tree of life. Oh, great mystery, sun, moon, and sky and sea, you are inside of me, and around me. With honor and respect to the Maori people and the first spirits of the two-leggeds of this land. And now I come bringing the ancestors of my land in honor and respect to all of you who live here and who this is home.
The Polynesian tribes in Hawaii and New Zealand and the Aztecs and the Mayans were all derived from the ancient Lemuria, and when that went under, those tribes scattered and populated South America, so now Hawaii, and then they used the canoes to come to Aotearoa and populated all the Cooks, the Nuians, all the Tongan Island groups, the whole lot. And then they would have spread up through North America and then met the North American Indians from Turtle Island.
And that's all hooked up with the Mayans and the Aztecs too.
Yeah.
Back out! Little guy! Little guy! Yeah!
Well, I arrived here 1 week ago at the gathering site, and it seemed to many of us that it was no coincidence that this event began on the same date that the Iraqi invasion began in the Middle East, the second Iraqi invasion. And it seems to me what these two simultaneous events are highlighting to all of us is the importance for us to work very intensely now with the qualities and principles of cooperation and partnership, loving and sharing, which are being practiced here in very sometimes demanding situations. There are over 300 people camping and sharing food and living a beautiful section of land here. But it isn't as easy at times as living at home, where things tend to go automatically and smoothly. And the issues that are coming up for people are real tests of these principles of cooperation. And what we're doing is really, by our practice here, living together, is seeding or implanting in our society, in this immediate community to begin with, a new pattern for the way people can live.
We've connected with a man in America who has invented and done all the practical engineering for running all our petrol-based engines on water, plus a whole lot more than that. We can run ships on it and what have you. And it seems like there have been people that have said they can do this thing before, but they've all been suppressed so far. The oil companies have had so much power over them, but at this point it seems like the doorway's open, you know, even very high level in the Pentagon and the US and so on are actually supporting him to do it now because the economy depends on it for its survival now. And what this sort of really represents is a real vehicle for hope for an alternative future. It represents the entire decentralization of power.
Okay, let's all run around the camp and annoy everyone.
The company putting some toxic poison into a slowly moving river. I said, what about natural conservation? They said it's a free world and who the hell cares? I care for the giant coyote, I care for the beech tree forest, I care for the Manukau Harbor, I care for the Coromandel, care it will be there for my children, it will be there in my lifetime.
Let's find out. Yes. So what I will be using now again with the Alexander technique of giving you a sense of how it's possible to follow my hands, the delicate movements of my hands. Easy, easy, easy.
Well, they're quite athletic people, Sagittarians, and they're good athletes.
I must be on a cuff.
Good sportsmen, so a lot of outdoor activities.
Outdoor,
yeah, they make good teachers, so they're good lecturers, philosophers. Do a lot of... Bhagwan Rajneesh was a Sagittarian.
It's been interesting just to see the togetherness, the way people can suddenly come together in a moment's notice, you know. Yeah, I've really enjoyed that part of it. It's been good. Yeah, I think it's one of the vital things that's here. It's just sort of showing where people are prepared to let their energies just turn up and go into anything, you know. If it looks good, they'll give it a go and it just suddenly develops, you know.
But I've just made a video about illustration techniques.
Do you ever use frisket or resist?
I have in the past.
Because you get nice edges.
Yeah, that's just because I've got a tiny wee brush.
Right. And so your themes, you have really strong themes running through these. I love your nighttime one. Is this any particular place?
No, it's an internal place, I think. I think most of them are actually internal.
Yeah, I've just done a workshop on the what's called meta touch, which is a sort of like a non-massage technique, and very, very light touch on this, just lightly on the head. Absolutely wonderful feeling. Takes about 10 minutes to do. Don't have to have any special training. Wonderful. Clears the mind, opens up the breathing. Supposedly brings a recall of past lives or past experiences. Absolutely magnificent.
Late that night, I'm taking spirits of the west, ye spirits of the north, the spirit of the great above, the spirit of the great below, and the heart spirit of the center of all beings, to be with us, to open our hearts.
What about significant things for you during the festival?
Significant things for me during the festival, I think the most significant was being in Elaine's workshop the other morning on relationships, and sitting in front of a guy who reminded me of my father, who at one stage threatened to kill me, and feeling totally terrified, and walking out of the workshop and crying for about an hour. And I think that resolved a lot for me, and I managed to come back to the workshop at the end. A lot of emotional letting go from when I was a baby. Yeah.
General overall opinions of the festival as an outsider?
I love it. The food is the most wonderful week of food I've ever been able to lay my hands on anywhere. It's a dream come true for me.
And I want the person who's needy to be as honest as you can about what it is that you need by just responding non-verbally. Be aware when you're needy, often all you want is just to be nurtured.
People are so honest in these workshops. It's really a pleasure to take part and to help them to express that honesty, to express their own inner truth, their own divine wisdom. And I believe that it's essential that in order to do this, people become grounded in their own bodies, in their own feelings, in their own experiences of their love and their hate and their anger and their power and their sensitivity and their vulnerability, and that they have the courage to express that directly to other people. It's as long as the person is able to be honest and say the things from their heart directly to each other, then the real things happen, and transformation is just around the corner. It happens in that process, and the flower opens and people become their true essence, their human essence, and at the same time their deeply spiritual essence. So it's wonderful to take people through this sort of experience.
And the coconut roll, which goes like this. Right, 3 exercises.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't do it that fast. You do it really ultra slowly.
I love you so much. I feel my heart melting. Sometimes at night I cry to myself under my pillow, but it is of little use.
Cut! Cut! Michelle's heart couldn't melt an ice cream like that!
Oh Christ, how many times do we have to go through this?
We want feeling!
Okay.
We want subtlety!
Okay.
We want grandeur!
Okay.
Could we have another light here, please? Another one, just to catch the highlights on the face.
It smarts my makeup.
The makeup's fine, honey, but we just want some more light here.
Okay.
2 highlights!
Oh, Michelle, I can't tell you how much my heart hurts. It seems to be so...
Stop it, please, stop it, please. That orange sweater is just too loud. Take it off.
Do you want me to take it off? Look, I want to get at you about my wages, my working conditions, the harassment.
Hold it, Michelle!
I've had so much harassment from both of you, I'm going to contact the Actors Equity.
You won't have a leg to stand on, honey. You're not even with them.
Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure. I wouldn't have said so.
Roll! This is the underground version. Quick! Lighting!
Oh, Michelle, my heart. I'm sorry.
Very subtle. This is good. This is good. This is good.
My cue.
This is real. This is real. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Michelle,
this is good. This is good.
Yearns for you.
Oh, yes.
I don't know how.
Ah! She feels it.
You know what to say? You know the
So, I'm going to vote to pick with you.
I really think you should wear your orange sweater now.
Why?
Because it's so bright and lovely and vibrant.
Do you want me to punch you?
Not particularly.
Are you sure?
Quite sure.
Would you like $1,000?
No, but I could do that.
All of us, our essence is love. We are actually love, and we're connected to each other in that, but we've got these things that separate us, and here was sort of a lot of what separates us is being dropped. So we're connecting, you know, we're connecting in the truth of who we really are.
How do we carry the information, the experiences, the things that are happening at this gathering in our lives in Aotearoa out to a wider context? There are a lot of people that want to see this time healed. And I believe Aotearoa has quite a critical role to play in the whole world.
The last time Pluto was where it is now, we had the birth of the Industrial Revolution, the discovery of oil and machines and cars and everything else. And here we are 250 years later, suffering the consequences of going too fast too soon.
Pluto seems to have a very profound influence.
It does.
I can feel its strength.
Well, I tend to look at Pluto as being the Saturn return of humanity.
Oh, interesting.
When you think of how a Saturn return works, it brings about a crisis. If you're ignoring the signs, Saturn comes along around 28 and says, right, here you go, here's a crisis, so deal with this. And crisis comes from the Greek word akrino, which originally means to make a decision before a change. And so you're forced into that decision, and now we're in a situation where we have the Middle East war is just a knock-on effect, but we are, as a human race, as a one whole organism, being faced with a threat from the outside, which is a result of negative behaviour on the inside. So the humanity is the negative behaviour, and the threat is the breakdown of the ecosystem. So until So we're being forced with our Pluto return, which is to make that decision to either survive through mutual cooperation and interdependence, or to nothing, because there wouldn't be anything after. If we carry on down that same track, there won't be a follow-on.
Our intention is to continue this pattern in further gatherings of this kind in our groups and meetings and families as we go back home after this week, to resonate, to repeat the vibration, the pattern that we're setting up here, which has been passed on to us from previous gatherings. It's nothing really original, it's just that we're making it fresh and new this year, 1991. But there have been generations of people historically that have practiced living this way in community, and the indigenous peoples, most of the countries on this planet, have infinite wisdom about how to live this way. And we're doing it now in a New Zealand fashion in 1991, and accepting the guidance of our elders and of other traditions as we have this week. We've had North American Native people here and Maori people here, and others that have all brought together their collective wisdom. And this is the time of that coming together, that partnership, and take that wisdom and to translate it into practical living terms.
And you're a person who's very involved with the gatherings. I know you've been involved for a long, long time, and a person who's been quite influential about the gatherings, and particularly one of your big concerns is the sweat lodges. Can you tell us a bit about the sweat lodges in general and about the special way of how the sweat lodges are done at these gatherings?
Well, at the gatherings many therapies are taught, and different therapies used for de-stressing and learning, and the sweat lodge is one of them. It's virtually a purification ceremony. It has a spiritual quality, and people go to it for a special reason, to uplift, to clear themselves, to purify themselves and to uplift themselves, and often to reach answers about their future life and where they're going and what they want to do with their lives.
There is different physical ways of doing a sweat lodge. One is the Lakota way we do it, is you build a little frame of willows on the ground, it looks like half of a ball. That is the actual sweat lodge. You cover it with blankets really, really well, so that no light comes in anymore and no breeze goes through it. It's airtight. Then there is a fire built in front of it in a ceremonial way. There is an altar there. In this fire you heat up rocks, and when those rocks are glowing hot, the people assemble in the sweat lodge. The rocks are brought in, the door is closed, and then a time of prayer starts. So you alternate prayers and songs, and it gets very, very hot. There is water poured onto the rocks, and the steam is extremely hot, and you really suffer and sweat in there.
There's quite moments of fear, closed away in the dark, when the heat gets very intense, and if you can at that point realise that the people around you are uncomfortable too, and reach out to help them with a squeeze of the hand or an arm around their shoulders, then you lift yourself out of your own pain and agony, and it's almost as if it's a showing you how you can do that in real life.
And it is an opportunity to pray to the Great Spirit and go through this purification of the mind and the body and the soul at the same time. So it is a sacred spiritual ceremony.
It's a meeting of the unknown and a really facing yourself and finding your strength.
Well, for me, the gathering of 91 has been one of the most special times of my life. I've never met so many beautiful people in such a wonderful environment. And all the time I've been on this earth, in the physical being anyway. The climax was my first sweat lodge last night in this torrential downpour. Some people told me that it's a Maori blessing and a way of cleansing to have torrential rain before a spiritual event such as a sweat lodge. I think we must have had a very spiritual sweat lodge last night. The amazing part was that when we came out, the river, which we were all going to have previously looking forward to have a dip in, was flooded almost to the ground level when we came out. And then we finally get back into our tents, looking forward to getting into dry clothes, only to discover they were all absolutely saturated. But I don't think it dampened anyone's spirits. It was a very, very special time.
I've just come out of a sweat lodge last night where it was the extremes of heaven and hell, that is to say wet and dry. The gathering itself has been, well, amazing basically. I've managed to crank in at least 6 hours of playing the guitar every day, much to my delight. And I've met more beautiful people here than I have in all the rest of my life.
I was really amazed at the level of intimacy of people here. People are just, as soon as you meet them, they're physically intimate and emotionally and spiritually and mentally intimate with you. They're open and there's an unspoken trust and an unspoken confidentiality and an unspoken support of who you are and where you're going.
It has been a continual processing, revelations of things, a total change in my life.
As you reflect on the things that have made this week, the powerful opening time that it has for you. The experience of community, of saying yes instead of no, and all the other things that you have created this time for yourselves with. And breathe them in and hold them in your heart. And imagine the altar becoming the central point in a fountain, pouring that energy into the altar, and then seeing it go up with crystal light, straight up through the middle. And everywhere that one of those drops of crystal falls, many more crystals will grow. And turning and facing outwards, and sending that energy out, radiating it out. Breathing it in from the centre, carrying it within you and sending it out. And turning and reaching upwards for the second arm. beginning to reflect on some of what that journey's been about of the last year and a half really, since we decided to work with the gathering. And yeah, it's been very intense and powerful learning, but feeling the richness of this week just makes me think, yeah, all of that effort over the last year and a half has really been worth it. It's been something that has just, it's so rich. Like each day has been lifetimes, and the connections and the lessons and the opportunities to just find out more about myself or each of the people here actually. And I've been noticing the way that, I don't know, sitting in a circle, particularly yesterday when we did our universal worship ceremony, there was this huge vibration just pouring through my body, and my body was sort of like rocking very slightly but very quickly, and just this huge clarity. And it's been like that actually this week. I felt very clear and very centered and really able to anchor the energy. And I just feel as if I've been given the gift of being able to be in quite a focal point in terms of group energy, and it's really nourished me too. And I've just realised, you know, or reaffirmed for myself that I don't know, saying yes, you know, like just saying yes to everything that happens. You know, like I have boundless energy. It's when I start saying no that I drain my energy. And there have just been heaps of opportunities to say yes here.
People have asked me what I did for my holidays. It's jolly hard to say. I went to the gathering. People ask, what is the gathering, or what was the gathering? I say the gathering still is. It's still happening. For me, it was about the oneness of mankind.
The gathering was just an absolutely wonderful experience for me. It was great just to be amongst the group of people that were there. Everybody, most of the time, was soft and loving, and it was just a really good place to be.
The gathering for me was the most powerful one I have ever been to, and I've been to a number over the years. For me, the sense of togetherness, of community, of really deep love and sharing, and very profound communication on a non-verbal level was beautiful.
For me, it was not just a case of coming together as a group, as a gathering. It was also a case of coming together within myself, finding my own powers, my own weaknesses.
Yeah, just all the support you get in the gathering was really amazing. So many warm people, so many cuddles, and people that really care.
How do you feel about where we're going now?
Well, I feel that the original vision is being implemented and built on in a most satisfactory way for the unfoldment of the vision that I originally had.
And your vision was to the higher levels. You were looking at spirituality and peace, universal love.
Well, very much so, but in a way, a more practical way than that. Although I was only the instrument, as you might say, for the Spirit to work with, I had to set the scene. But my own ideals are that until we give a practical example of how people can live together as a human family, we cannot actually talk about the brotherhood of man. And that was my ideal, that people should live together in the higher awareness of the possibilities of this planet. Because people have come to me and said that they had never dreamed that people of different religious ideals and opinions, people of different nationalities, could actually live together in harmony as a human family.
So you're feeling very content with what's come from that original vision?
Yes, very much so.
And you're feeling you chose a special place to site that
I
gathering?
didn't choose the place. I was driving over Ralph Brock's farm for the first time, and my inner voice suddenly said to me, this is the place for the gathering. And I hadn't even seen the river.
And from the results of teaching and healing and commitment and people living in love and peace, that's proved to be correct.
It has really proved to be correct, because if anybody meets another person from one of the gatherings, perhaps they never met them at the gathering, but they are still immediately a member of the family.
Gone from a relatively straight-assed person into who I am now, which is something which people who used to know me no longer recognise. In 2.5 months I'm leaving here, which is one of the reasons why I'm putting my story down on tape, or whatever you want to call it. Going down to Wanganui, getting my lady, and we're taking off somewhere. Go to spread the word and spread the message that we got during the gathering, which is the times now, and if anybody's got to make a change, it's got to start from within us. And that's what happened to me after the gathering. I've changed. Thanks a lot.
And how are you feeling in your heart about having been the person to begin it all?
Well, I'm just feeling totally blown, like generally I am, yeah.